Real. Number one, I'm out here looking like 101. Everyone else is a runner-up, and I still feel I ain't done enough. Talk to myself like it's your time. Walk in the building, it's showtime. Gotta give thanks to the Most High. I am the one that streets cosign.
What up, world? Thank you for tuning in to the COSIGN Conversations podcast. I am your host, KG Graham. Episode 1 is finally here. I've been talking about doing a podcast for at least 2 or 3 years now. Actually attempted a couple years ago. It didn't work out, so here I am again with the COSIGN Conversations podcast, and episode 1 is brought to you by the Dallas Census 2020. Make sure you follow Dallas Counts 2020 on Instagram and visit my2020census.gov if you haven't filled that out already. So for episode 1, I have a very, very special guest. I know a lot of people say that, but we have Dallas royalty today. So without further ado, welcome to the COSIGN Conversations podcast, Lady Jade.
Hey, KG. Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Nah, of course. You know, you're a legend out here in these Dallas streets, so definitely want to get you in and kind of share your story, tell people how you got started, and just kind of share your advice on media and all that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess where do I begin? From the beginning of my career, I guess. We're going all the way back there?
Yeah, let's go back. Let's take it all the way back.
Okay, well, we won't use years because I'm not going to age myself. But
Got you.
The crazy thing about this whole media radio situation is that I never in a million years would have thought that I would have been in radio. My mom was a school teacher for like over 30 years in Dallas. So I either thought I was going to be a teacher or I wanted to do like television.
Okay.
When I was a child, from like age 2 to like 12, I used to like model for this agency, Kim Dawson. So I always loved being in front of the camera and doing stuff like that. So, you know, that was kind of like a natural fit for me. Well, when I went off to college, I went to Texas State. I was going to do broadcast, and then I was like, golly, I don't really want to pigeonhole myself and just to do like broadcast journalism. So I picked PR, and I'm gonna be honest with you, KG, like I didn't even know what it was. And I really don't exactly know for sure right now what it is. I did get my degree. I just made sure I passed all my tests and all my classes. That's all I know.
So you have a degree in PR?
Yeah, I do have a PR degree. And when I was in college, my sophomore year, I pledged Delta Sigma Theta. Okay. And we were having a party. So a guy that I was dating in college at the time had a friend that worked at the radio station. He was going to go visit him. And he was like, you want to come? I was like, yeah, because, you know, the Deltas, we're about to have a party. Maybe we can get on the air and pub our party. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, you know, it was hidden motives for me. So I go up to the radio station. I remember walking into the studio, and they had a night show. It was about 3 or 4 people on the night show, and they were having so much fun. And I'm like, man, what is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, they were having like a party in the room. And I'm just like, wow, maybe I can use this because it's still media and get my foot in the door and use this to get into television. So that was my whole goal.
Okay.
Long story longer. They hooked me up with the promotions director at the time, which honestly, when I was calling him, he was not calling me back. And so if anybody's listening, whenever you're trying to break into media, persistence is key. I always say. For sure. Because it's like one day there's no positions, and literally the next day there'll be like 15 positions available. So you just never know. Everything is about timing. And when I say persistence, there's a fine line between being persistent and like being a stalker. So you have to kind of, be strategic about it. But I remember I called him a couple of times. He didn't answer. So the last message I left him, I was like, hey, this is Jade. I was just wondering when you wanted me to start. What my start date was. Yeah. And he ended up calling me back off of that message. Yeah. So anyways, I think it was the humor and just, personality. Here's the thing about media. A lot of people want to get into media, but a lot of people don't like people. A lot of people want to get into media, and a lot of people don't know how to communicate with different types of personalities. And like, if you can do that, because that really can't be taught, that just has to be something that you have. you surpass somebody that has all the technical skills. To me, and that's just my personality. That's just my personal opinion. Somebody else may disagree, but I just feel like personality carries you so long, especially if it's something like radio or media, as far as like entertainment media. Obviously, news is a different story. That's very straightforward and technical. And as you know, I don't think I could ever do news. I don't. But so I actually ended up getting an internship, is what it was. So I interned for a couple of months, and it was crazy because the guy at the time really didn't want to teach me very much stuff. He just wanted me to sit there, but I was soaking in everything, KG. Every piece of paper he touched, like my eyes were zooming in on it. He was literally telling me stuff like alphabetize my CD cabinet. Like it was almost like he was trying to embarrass me and trying to break me. And I just did everything that he asked me to. He would leave for lunch and come back and be like, I thought I told you to alphabetize my CD cabinet. And I was like, yes, sir. I'm already done. So.
Oh, yeah.
I just did everything that he asked me to do. And I think that's a lot of people's problem, is like, they think like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm too good for this. Well, yeah, sometimes there is a fine line and somebody kind of abusing their power. But if you can show that you're willing to do the grunt work and you can be trusted with that, then why wouldn't they continue to assign you more things? Well, the way God works, he got fired. And so I'm sitting in there and, who do they come to when they're like, where is this? Where is that? Well, shoot, I done put everything up. So I'm like, I know where it is. So literally I went from being like an intern to, they gave me more responsibilities to work like on the street team and go out in the streets and stuff like that. And then I was doing a lot of office work too. So they ended up bringing in a new promotions director and making me the assistant promotions director. Yeah, it was a blessing. I was getting paid nothing. I remember when they first put me on salary, they like literally walked me in and they were like, we want to pay you. I want to say at the time, it was somewhere between $13,000 and $18,000 a year. Damn. Nobody can live up. But I was still a college student, and I was just like, when they tell you the word, we want you to be full time and we want you to be salary, you're like super excited. But when they told me the number, I was like, it was still more than I had ever made in my life,
Right. Well, hold on, this doesn't add up though.
Yeah, it's not adding up. I'm like, man, like I'm still gonna be broke, and they can just tell me to work whenever. But you know what? I saw it as an investment. And one thing that I always say is, you may get the raw end of the stick initially, but if you go in there and you bust your butt and you outwork everybody else, even if they don't want to, I just believe that God always comes through on the back end, and that he's a rewarder of those who not only diligently seek him, but those that really, really, truly work hard and appreciate the opportunities that have been given them, And from then, just doors kept opening up. It was time for me to graduate. I did that for about a year and a half. This
was at a Texas State, right?
Actually, I'm sorry. Okay, so I was at Texas State, but this was at a radio station. I had to drive to San Antonio every day. So I had about a 45-minute commute back and forth every single day. My college was in a town called San Marcos, and I had to drive to San Antonio. It was actually it wasn't a college radio station. It was like an official radio station.
Nice.
When I first started at the radio station too, it was hip hop. Like 3 months later, they flipped to like rock. And I don't know anything about rock music, but here's the thing. It really doesn't matter the format. You know what I mean? Like, marketing is going to be the same. Ideas are typically the same. I was like the only Black girl in a station full of, it was all Hispanic and white. And so, when they were trying to understand how to get more Black listeners and young listeners and college listeners, because I was in college at the time, I was the go-to person. They would be like, what do people like? How do we, And so like, I was very, very valuable to them at that time. Then I was graduating, and I was blessed with the opportunity to work at K104. I literally, while I was in San Antonio at KTFM, I worked enough shifts to make an air check on the air. Okay. And so I sent my air check in. And let me tell you something, what's so crazy is I sent it off before I listened to it. One of the guys at the station put it together for me. And the air check is like a sample of your voice, you coming in and out of breaks, so they can kind of see what you sound like on the air or whatever.
Okay, I was
And
about to ask you what that was.
yeah,
I had no idea.
so like, you record yourself talking on the air and then you send it off. It's almost like a media kit for, for radio.
Okay, got you. Makes
Because they
sense.
want to see, what do you sound like? Do you have personality? Is your voice annoying? Which a lot of people think mine is, but it's all good. Do you have a sound for radio, or are you super bland and boring or whatever? Well, so I sent that off, and KG, I had my own copy, but I had already mailed it, right? I put
Yeah.
it in my CD player. I cried so hard because I was like, oh my God, this sucks so bad. Like, I am so corny. Like, I thought it was the most embarrassing thing ever. But they saw different. Um, and I actually knew somebody here in Dallas that worked at the radio station on the street team. And they were like, well, yeah, they have a little bit of interest in you, but nobody was calling me. And it was the same thing as before. Me jumping on the phone, being persistent, and still not getting calls back. So K104 was actually having an event at a park over the 4th of July. And so I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to meet somebody there and say, hey, is the manager here or whatever? So I ended up talking to the manager. He happened to be out at the event at the time. And I was like, hi, I was just letting you know that I sent in an air check. And that meant a lot to him. You get what I'm saying? Because it's like,
Yeah.
I got up and got dressed, and I wasn't going to basically take no for an answer. Like, I'm going to come to where you guys are. And again, it's just being that persistent person without being weird and stalkerish. So ended up getting an interview. And, I always say this, God completely blessed me with the ability to be able to work in the city that I was born and raised in. Like, that's freaking unheard of. You know what I mean? Like,
no, for sure.
I'm around my family. My family is here. I grew up listening to this station. So yeah, I did overnights, which was 2 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. It's nothing but nobody's listening but creepy truck drivers, okay? And I don't mean all truck drivers are not creepy, but I've had a lot of them call me. But it was a great practice. I did that, and I also worked the street team. So during the day, I would go out, hang up banners, pass out tickets, drive around in the trucks, do everything that the promotion staff does. And then overnights, I would do my air shift, and I worked my behind off. Like, it was no such thing as just, I hope I don't get anybody in trouble. This was so long ago, but there was no such thing as just working 40 hours a week, but you were only going to get paid for 40 hours, right?
That's still standard in some industries.
Yeah. But like nowadays, doing what I did, I would definitely get in trouble, but I was like pumping in like 60 something hours a week, but I wanted to be successful, and I didn't want anybody to say that I didn't work for it. And I think that sometimes right now people are counting their hours, which you should. Now, you should never let anybody abuse their power, right? But at the same time, sometimes it does require you to go a little bit above and beyond, because a lot of people can say a lot of things about me, but nobody can ever say that I didn't grind, that I didn't work hard. You know what I mean? And I think now when I watch, sometimes the younger generation, and this is not like a slight to anybody, because this is not everybody as a whole, obviously, but it's that entitlement of, well, dang, I've been doing this for like 2 or 3 months. Y'all ain't gonna put me on the air yet? Like, what?
Exactly.
It's like,
that's everywhere.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's a grind. Like, whenever you pick your career, you got to think to yourself, and I didn't pick mine. Like, God kind of placed me here, but I chose to walk into it. Like, would it be something that you would be willing to do for free? And obviously all of us need money because we have bills, but that's what I'm saying. When I say for free, there are going to be some things that require self-sacrifice. And are you willing to do those things to grow? Because again, I go back to my original statement of, I just believe that God is a rewarder of hard workers,
Definitely. I want to touch on that persistence for a minute. So how often in both opportunities were you reaching out at that time?
Reaching out as far as?
Like to, when you say you were calling, doing like cold calling to let them know that, hey, I sent over my resumes for KT FM and for K104. How often were you reaching out? Just kind of touching base about your resume and just seeing if they had opportunities open.
Maybe like once a week. You know what I mean? it's just staying top of mind. The thing about media, like radio stations especially, like they never stop. You know, there's never been a
Right.
time where you turn on a radio station and it's not on. So you have thousands of people applying. You have thousands, like so many things going on behind the scenes. And like maybe somebody saw your resume and said, okay, I'm going to get with them. But then they got distracted and they got busy. And next thing you know, this was on a Tuesday and it's already Friday. They don't want to call you over the weekend. So then, you know,
Right.
you just kind of got to balance it out. You definitely don't want to leave too much time in between. I think now too, with technology, you know, sending an email is always really good too, just a follow-up email. Even if you haven't, you know, as soon as you submit your resume, is always to send that follow-up email and just thanking them in advance for taking the time to go over your application and read your resume. Because then when they get that, trust me, most people are not doing that. That's that second step. They're going to be like, okay, let me look for this person's, you know, air check, email, resume or whatever. And it, you know, just shows professionalism. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of professionalism nowadays. So
Yeah, trust me, we get the same over here.
yeah.
But let's talk about from going from overnights to street team. So what was the next step of your career from there? Like what happened next?
Next step, there was a position opening for a night shift. Our night guy at the time, let's see, our guy that was doing 6 to 10, who was actually Greg Street, the legendary Greg Street.
Legend.
Yes, he's a legend in the game. He was moving back to Atlanta. And so they ended up moving Cat Daddy, who's on K104. Cat Daddy, and let me shout him out because we can talk about this later. He's the one that gave me the name Lady Jade. And he was there before I was. He literally from day one took me up under his wing, like in the most sincere way. And but yeah, Cat Daddy was there before I was there. And so like, man, he taught me so much. Like, we gotta talk about Cat because that dude right there is great. But anyways, Greg Street was moving back to Atlanta. They moved Cat Daddy to Greg Street's position from 6 to 10, which opened up that 10 to 2 spot, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And it was between me and another guy. Now, one thing I can say, and this is why people think I'm being corny or people think that I'm just trying to be overly spiritual when I attribute my career to God. Like, I'm not even joking. I have never gone in and had to apply or tell anybody I was interested in a position, like ever. Like God literally, I remember the program director at the time pulled me into the office and he was like, hey Jade, 10 to 2 is opening up. It's between you and this other DJ who shall remain nameless. And but he obviously, like, he had been in the game longer than me and he had he was just all around, just I guess kind of a better, more polished DJ. And that's what my program director said. He was like, you got more of the street sound, the Dallas sound. You're a little bit more relatable as far as just hip hop overall. He said, but he's a little bit more polished to you. And I literally looked my boss in the eye. I don't know why I said this because looking back, I'm like, oh my God. But I looked at him and I was like, well, it's really not on you. Like, if God wants me to have a position, it's going to be mine. So I'm not really tripping. So just make the decision that you think is best for the station. Well, lo and behold, I ended up getting it. You know what I'm saying? And so I did that for like a year and a half. And then one day, I got an email. I checked my email. I was in this station, KG, and they were like, we need you to be here at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking, I don't get off till 2 a.m. I thought they were about to fire me. I was trying to figure out, what have I done? What is going on?
Right.
Well, I went the next day and the morning show host at the time, his name was Skip Murphy. He's also super legendary. I grew up listening to him. He had a #1 morning show for many, many, many years. They killed in Dallas. They whooped everybody,
Yeah, I remember Skip Murphy.
Skip Murphy and White Gary. White Gary, I didn't know, but they had just hired White Gary at the station. And they pulled me into this room and White Gary was like, I've been listening to you at night. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I've been listening to you. And we kind of want to bring a younger sound to the morning show. Would you be interested in joining Skip Murphy and Company and doing mornings? And I'm like,
wow.
again, that ain't nothing but God, KG. Like, this is crazy. I had never met this man before in my life. And I was like, heck yeah. Like again, I never thought radio was gonna be my thing. Like, I never in a million years, like, cause when you get to mornings, like that's a goal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like, heck yeah, I will. And I was scared as hell. Like, I ain't gonna lie, but I was like, yeah. So literally by that Monday, I was on the morning show. And KG, I was horrible. I ain't gonna lie. I was horrible. You know, you have this cast of people that have been working together for, you know, nearly 15 years. So that's an unmatched chemistry. Like, you can't even pay for that type of chemistry. And here I am. Right. I'm barely saying 2 words. You know, they have me implementing like this little rap line onto something I was doing at night to bring it on the morning show. And they looking at me crazy, like, who is this helper in here being ghetto on the show? And
oh wow.
Yeah, but and then that was pretty much it just I've been on many different morning shows since then, but God has continued to keep me. And sometimes I'm like, God, why you got me here? I don't understand. Like, how come? But no matter how many times the lead seat changes, no matter how many times management changes, God has sustained me. And I wish I had a deeper explanation or a more profound explanation than that. But, you know, I guess whenever you're walking in purpose, I remember my pastor telling me one time, there was a time when I had rededicated my life to Christ. And I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be working at a secular station. This is when I was doing nights. And my pastor at the time looked at me and said, okay, well, if you leave, who's going to be a light in a dark place? Exactly. And I was like, oh God. Because I thought my pastor was going to be like, you know what, you have finally come to see the light. Yes, you got to walk away from this, you know, this hip hop. And I'm not going to lie. Of course, I mean, I have the same struggles as everybody else. Am I always the light? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? Do I, you know, can I have an attitude? Can I play into the jokes just like everybody? I'm not above anybody at that station, nor am I better. But I guess I just attribute that station to God has a purpose and a plan for me that is bigger than what I can see, that he's kept me there for so many years. So, yeah.
That's an awesome story. How important is like having that chemistry in the morning? Like, and how do you get that? Y'all practice after hours? Like, how do you build that chemistry?
The chemistry is everything. Like, you cannot have a morning show without having that chemistry. And it just develops over time. It's everybody just kind of paying attention to each other. You know what it is? It's like driving on a freeway. When you're driving on a freeway, you don't know how well the other driver you're merging onto the freeway, right? You don't know how well that person behind that wheel, you don't know how they drive, but it is watching and being able to merge properly, you know, and it is just getting a group of personalities in the room that understand, okay, this one needs to shine here. This one is good at this, and paying attention to everybody's strengths and weaknesses and what makes them tick and what makes them happy and what they, you know what I'm saying? It is,
right.
It's hard to get. And I'm going to say this, when I say it's hard to get, I have literally been through about maybe four, maybe 5 different morning shows, maybe more. I know that 3rd and 4th chair has revolved at least 10 people. For the last 11 years, Dee has led, or Dee has been there. She wasn't leading at first when she got there, but Dee and I have worked together on the morning show for the last like 11 years. So for probably about 2 or 3 years, we had a revolving third chair. And it's because my chemistry with her just developed so well over time. And it's just constantly paying attention to each other and constantly working with each other. And it does seem like you would practice after work, but you don't practice with your friends, the people that you genuinely connect to in life. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't sit up there and, you know, practice barbershop talk. You know, or have you ever like been on a conversation with, on the phone with a girl before, And sometimes you'd be like, dang, that was easy. Like,
Nah,
yeah,
for
but there's
sure.
other girls you talk to where you like, man, that was,
Be
yeah, it was
dry.
dry. It was weird. You didn't know how to get off the phone. Like it's, and so
Yeah.
it just, some things develop over time. Everything is just like that. It's like a relationship, you know? And eventually you figure out, okay, yeah, this is working. Because you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater when you first, when you first meet somebody. Come on, KG, you go back on this, you go back on that second date because you'll be like, man, maybe it just was a bad day. And that's the
Yeah.
only thing I can kind of, I guess, compare it to is like, when we're off the air, when you guys are hearing music or when you guys are hearing commercials, we're literally talking and we're talking about our lives. And this is our running joke is that our significant others, we know more about each other than our own significant others. We are literally locked in a room with each other. Well, now it's 6 hours, but it used to be 5 hours a day. People at regular
Gotcha.
jobs don't even do that. Normally you're in your space. This person is at their
And
desk
they're in the,
and
yeah.
y'all chop it up a little bit. Y'all may go to lunch together every once in a while, but we are in a room forced to talk to each other for 5 hours a day. So just naturally things start coming up or, you start sharing personal things. And next thing you know, this turns into a topic. And like me and Dee know all of each other's stories. Like there is nothing new under the sun. And same thing with Michael Sean, because he's been on the air with us for 7 years, so
It's been that long already?
it's been that long. I know. Time is, that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Mike, you've been here for a long time, bro. But yeah, so it just kind of, it's a natural, it naturally forms, but it does take time, just like every relationship. So
Got you. So I'm from the outside
I hope I'm
looking
not,
in.
I hope I'm not talking your head off, KG, because
No,
I can
no,
talk.
you good. You good. Like I actually I don't want to. I'm gonna say it anyway. I actually like interviews and podcasts where the guest does most of the talking because a lot of times like you watch or you listen to that for that person, and I hate when like the host gets on and does all the talk. You're like, bro, be quiet so I can hear that person. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but nah, for sure.
Okay.
But what I did want to say was though, do you or your co-host ever feel like pressure? I know like radio can be kind of tough sometimes. Like, do y'all feel pressure when it comes to like ratings or having to keep up with stuff? And like, how do y'all kind of, adapt with like outside noise when, you have to like reach KPIs and stuff within the company?
Every day.
Mm.
And that's the part that the listener doesn't see. Every week we get weekly ratings. We get monthly ratings, and then we get our books, which is for the 3-month periods, quarterly, excuse me. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much people in the streets love us. It doesn't matter how great your mama think you sound. Our boss is looking at numbers.
Right.
So it's funny. One of the things that you always hear people say is, man, y'all job is fun. All y'all do is talk. And you're thinking there's so much strategy that goes behind quote unquote just talking. People don't even realize we have to keep our breaks under a certain amount of time. We have to try our best not to be too repetitive. We have to make sure that our brain is conditioned to finding certain angles that are different than what we've heard. Look, everybody's talking about the same thing, KG, right? I
Not for
mean,
sure.
like right now, everybody's talking about Corona. You talk about it all day, every day. Well, how can
Yeah.
you put a spin on it so it's not boring to people? How can you find new information? Everybody has gone through a breakup. Well, how am I going to tell my breakup story where it can relate to somebody else? Or, it's just, your brain is constantly on. When I am at the grocery store, like I don't even think like a normal person anymore. Like I'm thinking of what did the cash register do that I can mention in the morning that can lead into a break where people could, like, okay, for instance, like I could be at Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, whatever. Well, Chick-fil-A, this is not going to happen. I'm going to say McDonald's. I can be at McDonald's and the person in the drive-thru working the drive-thru is rude, right?
Yeah.
Or they left something out of my bag. Now, if I tell that story, then somebody in the car is going to be like, man, that just happened to me. And so, now you can go into a topic of, when the last time you had bad customer service? What did the person say to you? Or and then,
Gotcha.
So you're constantly thinking of, this happened to me, or I saw this at the store, or how can we turn this into a topic? So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure for ratings, a lot of pressure to take a topic and reinvent it, to always stay fresh, to always stay topical, to always know everything that's going on. Now imagine wanting to turn your brain off and relax, KG.
But you can't.
It's impossible. And we get so much information. Think about it. If you hear about, coronavirus 4 times a day, we're hearing about it 40, because, we're constantly having to saturate ourselves with information to make sure that we have the latest information to give you. And that can really wear on your psyche, especially when it's bad news all the time, when you're talking about people getting killed in your city, deaths, kids getting abused. I mean, it becomes a lot. So, of course, we're always trying to reach those numbers. We're worried about those numbers, but most importantly, just always trying to be topical. And it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. And trust
Especially
me,
you're consuming content all day to figure out how to get it back to the audience.
bruh. I can't even watch Tiger King regular. I'm thinking to myself, I got to be able to tell these folks what happened tomorrow on Tiger King. Look, you like, I don't even want to watch Tiger King. I'm sleepy, but everybody talking about it. So let me watch Tiger King. So, because that is staying topical is what gets you your numbers. People listen when they feel like they know you, and when they know you keeping it real. You get what I'm saying? And when you and when you make them laugh, and when you make them feel good, or you make them be able to relate to you, and that takes constant movement of your brain. So, yeah,
that makes sense. But to get back to like your career, so who do you think was like that person that kind of gave you like that first shot? Like, who was like your first cosign that kind of helped you? It doesn't have to be like at the beginning, but maybe kind of help catapult you to where you're at now.
Well, I can say who hired me was Skip Cheatham. Skip Cheatham hired me, and he gave me a shot. It was him and Steve Nice collectively that sat down and was like, all right, she may have something. You know what I mean? She may have a good little, a good little personality flavor. The person who has, like, I guess, who I can attribute most of my career to, which people will be like, really? Honestly, our night DJ, Cat Daddy.
Oh, wow.
I've never had like a radio mentor, like, ever. Like, I just kind of learned I've made tons of mistakes, and just, you just learn by failing, really. But when I say what I attribute Cat Daddy for is, Cat Daddy literally from day one has been my biggest cheerleader. When you get into this game, it's a lot of self-doubt. You're confused. Nobody is really like sitting you aside and training you. Like when you go to a market like Dallas, which is a top 5 market, nobody gonna sit there and train you and hold your hand and walk you through anything. So you kind of just are thrown to the wolves.
Right, they kind of expect you to be ready to go.
Yeah, and I wasn't. But Kat has always been one of those people that, was like, you got this, cheered me on. I remember when we first started, Cat Daddy used to be the one that used to go to all the schools, and I would go with him. And Cat Daddy would introduce me like I was freaking Halle Berry. It wasn't like, and I was like, nobody knew who I was. I was still on the street team at the time. And Cat Daddy would be like, y'all hearing sometimes overnight. Y'all, I mean, he would hype me up. And then he'll be like, Lady Jade. And it'd be like one clap. It'd be like, okay. And then everybody would always be like, are you his girlfriend? Are you his wife? I'm like, no, I have on a station shirt. I work for the station. Like, this is he's my coworker. But he kept telling me, come on, Jay, go to this school with me. Come on, Jay, come on. You know what I'm saying? And even now, when I have my down moments, he and I will have conversations, and he'll be like, bruh, do you know how good you're? Like, he'll encourage me. And you always need that one person that, even if it's just once a year, that kind of was like, bruh, look in the mirror. Come on now, you killing it. Even if you're not killing it, they still gonna tell you you're killing it. You know what I'm saying? And what he taught me, and I hold on to it all the time. I said, I'm gonna get the tattoo. He always used to say, all faith, no fear, Jade. Stop being scared. All faith, no fear. And he would tell me that constantly. And
that's a quotable.
that is a quotable. See, I'm telling you, I'm really gonna get that tattoo. Real talk. All faith, no fear. And he is such a prime example. I've never seen Cat Daddy mad, and I've known him half my life. I've never seen him appear to be worried. And he has the same stresses that I do. You know what I mean? He's like, we always joke and say he's like the coolest person on the face of the earth. He's just always just cool, calm, and collective. And it's because of that motto he sticks to, is all faith and no fear. So he's always kind of been like my go-to person when I need radio advice. But I mean, I've learned a lot from a lot of people. I mean, I've learned tons of stuff from White Gary, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
White Gary is he's the morning show producer, and he's also our assistant program director. He's a great, coach. He'll be like, no, try it like this, do it like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, but I say Cat Daddy for the most part has been my go-to over the years, but coaching wise, I would probably say White Gary.
Okay. And you said Cat Daddy actually gave you the name Lady Jade, right? Like, how'd that come
about? When they first moved me from 10 to 2, Greg Street wasn't gone yet. So I did nights with Cat. It was me, Cat, and this guy named G Spook. It was 3 of us.
I remember G Spook.
And 3 of us used to sit there. And at the time, I was just Jade. And then, which is my name, my government name. And Cat, all of a sudden, they used to do this thing, like when they would see like a girl that they thought was cute, they would say, oh, she could get it. That's what the guys would say at the station. Uh-oh, look at her. She can get it. She can get it. So then, I don't know what happened, but one night, Cat Daddy just started saying, Lady Jade, the get it girl. Right? Like Cat Daddy is like, he's a poet with his words. I'm telling you, he is. If anybody knows who's the old school pimp, Magic Don Juan, like that was his idol back in the day. No cap, real talk. So he always kind of had that, gift of gab. So he would say, Lady Jade, the get it girl. Well, people started calling up to the station and being like, oh yeah, Lady Jade, Lady Jade. And it stuck. Like it never went. Like I literally got posters that said Lady Jade, the get it girl. It was crazy. And ever since then, it's never gone away. So it's like, okay, I guess I'm Lady Jade now. So yeah.
That's awesome. I recently saw that. Did you trademark it or copy?
Yeah, I trademarked it.
Which one did you do?
Yeah, I trademarked it. And me and Didi were having a conversation one day, and it kind of came up, and somebody else had recommended too that I do it. And I was like, I don't really know. It just seems like I should. And luckily nobody had done it. I mean, it's a good business move. Anybody that has a business or like a name that, identifies them, they should always think about getting it trademarked. It's just for safety purposes. You know what I mean? And if you ever want to try to build a brand around it, it's just a smart thing to do. It literally doesn't. It costs a few $100s, and it is a long process. I actually hired an attorney to do mine, and her fee was like super cheap. It was like, I say super cheap, but cheaper than what I thought it was going to be. It was like it was less than a couple $100 for her fee, and then you also have to pay obviously the government fee. But I'd rather pay that couple $100 knowing that I got it done correctly. And so I did that. And it takes about 3 or 4 months for it to come back for you to even know that you're approved for it. So it is definitely a slow process, but I'm glad I did that.
And I think one thing a lot of people respect about you too is like you're very business oriented, and you stay booked and busy. Like, when did you know in your career that it was important, to have more than one hustle and more than one stream of income? Because you're always hosting and do something else. Like was that mind frame always within you, or somebody was like, hey, like you can't depend on, just this? Like, how'd you get into doing everything else?
Yeah, I'm half Jamaican. So does that explain it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you're being raised by a West Indian father, you got to have, 10 jobs and you're never comfortable, no matter how, because you always know at any moment they can tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, it's been real. So,
Yeah,
but
facts.
honestly, just to be transparent with you, I wish that I would have done a better job at building my personal brand sooner. I kind of feel like
Gotcha.
I'm behind the ball a little bit. So even currently, I'm kind of working on that. Before, it was very important to me to build the brand of the radio station. But I
Right.
didn't do a great job at doing both at the same time. And so I'm kind of playing catch up with that. And I think that's what we do a lot of times is like, or it's vice versa. Sometimes I've seen people come into the radio station and all they're doing is building their personal brand, not worrying about the main brand that gave you your name. And then, and then they
Right.
end up blowing the big brand, which is the radio station job. So it's a balancing act, making sure that you're not, how do you put it? Pissing on the big brand to build your own brand. You got to learn how to balance. And it takes double work, honestly. I mean, so yeah, I should have done it sooner. But I don't know. You don't even think about it. You get comfortable in a sense, unfortunately.
Got you. So what is that? So what does the Lady Jade personal brand look for you outside of radio? Like, what else are you looking to get into?
I'm trying to figure that out. Just to be honest, I mean, I wish I had all the answers.
Uh,
I have a lot of ideas in my head, and just to be really honest with you, I'm kind of at a personal, frustrating point in my life because
oh yeah.
you, as successful as everybody thinks I am, which I am, right? Like I never take it for granted. I'm super grateful, but you try to figure out what is that next thing or what is that main side hustle, that one thing that could carry you. And it seems like every
Right.
time I seem to be working towards something, like God closes that door. And so I'm super frustrated right now because I'm like, why are you not making it clear to me? I work really hard outside. Like sometimes you're waiting for that one opportunity to walk in the door, right? And be like, oh, snap, this is it. Um,
Right.
it just hasn't happened like that. And I get frustrated because I'm like, I know so many people, I've done so many things. There's probably nothing else that I could host that would be new under the sun. There's probably nothing else I could. And so it's like, well, when is
Right.
one of these relationships or opportunities gonna pan out where you say, oh, okay, well, Jade's doing TV now, or oh, Jade's doing marketing now, or Jade's doing more of this. It just hasn't shown itself yet. And so I'm just like everybody else, KG. Like I'm in just a limbo. I'm in a personal limbo right now. And so, I mean, I guess if anybody's listening, I want them to know that they're not by themselves. Sometimes it seems to be very clear. And then it's like, okay, that like didn't work out
Yeah.
right. So
Trust me, I've definitely been there and kind of feeling it to myself right now. With everything going on right now, it's like it's not as clear as it once was, and you start to rethink, like, man, what am I supposed to be doing, or what am I
yeah,
doing?
trying to
So,
strategize and re-strategize is definitely it's difficult. It's a difficult process. I wish I had the answers. Shoot, we all trying to figure. If anybody
but
get them, let me know.
I know, send them this
Okay.
way. But I know you have the nonprofit Project
Yeah.
16, and you do the annual local love awards. Tell us how those came about and what's the status of those
Well, I know
currently.
everybody thinks that I didn't do the local love awards this year because of the coronavirus thing, but I'm actually,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, it's already
yeah,
April.
no, I decided I wasn't going to do it this year.
Uh,
And I am actually in a process of restructuring Project 16. So for those that don't know, my nonprofit Project 16 basically is for us to go, into those underserved areas and teach our kids life skills. Like I have literally spoken at thousands of high schools and elementary schools in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And one thing that I noticed, especially for our high school students when they're graduating from high school, they're literally not ready for the real world, at least in the communities that I grew up in or that we serve mostly, right? They have passed the STAR test, but they're not being taught how to interview, how to even have a conversation with an adult, look them in their eyes. They're not being taught how to write resumes, how to dress when you go on an interview. They're not being taught, what do I do if I get invited to this fancy dinner? How do I even know what fork to use? They're not being taught how to balance a budget, the importance of credit. I have friends that are in their 30s that have like a 0 credit score and always have to find somebody to rent an apartment for them. And I'm like, it's because we're not taught, this generational curse that I'm trying to help break through Project 16. And so what I'm doing right now is, and this is a hard thing for me to do. KG, you know me, I'm always working and grinding, and I had to take mentally a step back from everything. And I would love to say that I was okay with it. I wasn't. I felt guilty for taking a step back from some of the things of Project 16 because I know these kids need me. But I had to, number one, restructure. Things started.
Right.
This is what happens in life. I used to do this really dope promotion, this extreme prom makeover where we would take the kids shopping, that needed it. And they would have complete makeovers for their prom, which is an important day. And this is just one example. And like the community was like so really feeling it and loving it and getting behind it and donating money to it. And just like, man, Jay, this is awesome. That became one of my big events every year. But it made me lose focus on what Project 16 was really about. And so I literally had to take a step back and say, now I have allowed the community to shape what my vision was. Not saying that we're not going to do prom things, but that wasn't supposed to be priority. That was supposed to be a bonus, and that became priority. So same thing with local love awards. It was really big for this city. It was just an idea that I had, just wanted to give back to the city that I grew up in. I have the ability on the radio where we can pretty much talk about whoever we want all the time. And there's so many small businesses that don't get love. So I was like, well, let me use my platform to show them love and also as a fundraiser for the nonprofit. Well, I decided to take a step back from that too, because it started to become something that I didn't want it to be. I wanted it to be something where minority businesses and minority business owners came together and started forming relationships and utilizing one another and building, we're stronger together. Well, it started to become like a big competition where it was creating division. People were bickering, such and such up. And I mean,
I know what you mean.
And the thing is like, that's not the vision. And I'm not saying that I would never bring it back, but right now I'm not really tripping on that. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm cool with stepping back if it's going to mean that I'm not, I don't want these two people that do the same type of business. I don't want them beefing because of the local love awards. It was, you know what I'm saying? That wasn't it was never my intention. And so, there'll be other opportunities to do other fundraisers for Project 16, but that's kind of the space that I'm in right now, is just trying to get back focused. I think sometimes we can do a million things, but you can't do a million things great. And that's what I was doing. I was doing a million things and I was making it look like it was great, but deep down in my heart, like I guess really, this is going to sound, God, I think I'm getting a little bit too transparent, but you're kind of like silently suffering. Like you're everything is kind of becoming too overwhelming for you as one person. And,
for sure.
Like for my mental health, had to take a step back. I literally had to start going back to like therapy sessions. Look, people talk to me every day just so I can have somebody to talk to, just so I can have somebody to kind of help me understand why life was beginning to overwhelm me. So that's kind of where I am.
And I thank you for sharing that, because we live in a time right now to where everybody's moving so fast. Like everybody's on social media. Everybody feel like they have to keep up with the Jones. Like you got to post this, you got to post this status, or you have to look like you're always busy. But like it's commendable to actually take a step back and not really have to worry
But you
about
know
that.
what, KG?
Like
The thing is that it wasn't an easy thing to do because it people around you do be like, where you been? Now you feel like, what? Like now
exactly.
you feel like,
Yeah.
okay, well dang, maybe people think I'm falling off. Even somebody as successful as
Yeah.
you or as successful as I, we can get wrapped up in the you're constantly scrolling, being like, oh dang, I should be doing more. I should be doing more. And we making it look
Right.
all great on Instagram. But the reality is everybody got that struggle. And I want to be the first to step up and say, yes, I have that struggle. I can be forced and maneuvered and become sheeple for a second, but then I gotta stop and say, I can't do this
Right.
anymore.
Right. And that's why it's definitely commendable, because if not, people will just keep going on till they can't go no more, and then it becomes worse. Like that's how you have breakdowns, or and people end up doing something that's out of their
Mm-hmm.
character because they've been going so far, and they have nothing left in their tank, but they're still pushing. So taking those breaks and restructuring, that's
But this
super
is the first
important.
time
Like,
I've taken one since I've started my career. Because I wasn't taking care of me. And I'm still
right.
in the process of taking the break. So it's funny, I just had a therapy session today before jumping on this call. And I hate the word therapy. It makes you sound like you're crazy, but I want people to know therapy and counseling is super normal. And I'm going to explain it like this. I always reference Kirk Franklin's wife, Tammy Franklin, told me this one time. We were talking about counseling. This is back when I was married or whatever. And she was saying, you don't wait till all four tires on your car are flat before you go get maintenance, do you? And I was like, no, ma'am. And she was like, so why would you wait until you're absolutely broken down before you go seek help? And she was like, smart people go seek help before they even think they need help. She said, you have to do self-maintenance. And that's exactly what it is. Going to a counselor or going to a therapist, it doesn't mean you have diagnosed mental issues. Maybe you do, which is fine too. It doesn't mean that you're completely in some abusive relationship. It doesn't mean that, you're breaking down crying and you're in a depressed state and don't know what to do. Sometimes it does. But what it means is that you're smart enough to realize that I am also like a machine. And if I'm going to go get my oil change on my car, I'm way more important than my vehicle is. And I have to go get maintenance on myself. And unfortunately, that's not for our friends all the time or for our family members. It's really for a neutral source to help you understand why you think the way you think, why these things are triggers to you, why you're getting stressed out. I noticed I've always been I can't even sleep at night until a task is complete. Like I have to do everything in that day. But then I started to become a
Right.
procrastinator and starting to realize that sometimes procrastinating is not because you're lazy. It's because you're avoiding the stress that comes with these certain assignments. So it's just, I'm trying to learn me and learn and relearn me, KG. Like I'm like everybody else. At some point, we can be so busy with work and family and making sure everybody else is good that we lose ourselves in that. And we have to take a step back and say, okay, now who am I again? Not who society and Instagram has defined me as. Because people will push you into a corner and say, oh, KG, this is your lane, and that's the lane you're getting attention out of, and it's working for you for a little bit, but then you
Right.
start to be like, I don't know, this ain't what I was gonna do at first.
Yeah.
And so now you're pinned in a corner.
Exactly.
And now I think that every once in a while we literally have to do that self-maintenance and get back to figure out who we are or who we gonna be right now. You know what I'm saying?
Man, that's crazy you said that, man. I recently went through a breakup situation, and I was like, I lost who I was. Like, I've been somebody else
Oh
for
my
so long. Like, I
goodness.
need to learn what I like and what I want to do, you know? And it's crazy that you have to sometimes go all the way back to the basics just to kind of
It's
figure
so
yourself out.
true. But it's so important to do. So I hope that, people that listen to your podcast understand that you go through it, I go through it, we all go through it, because I think people feel so alone sometimes. And it's shameful to say, because you're like, I'm strong. Like, I can't lose me. What you mean? I know who I am. You don't
Yeah.
dare tell people that you don't know who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, you sound crazy. You sound weak.
No, I mean, I really do appreciate you sharing that. I know it's about an hour, but last thing I kind of want to ask you, with you being, like I said, royalty of Dallas, is a lot of people want to know, and I know it's probably a long list of people, but just think of somebody that, maybe doesn't get the attention or shine that they deserve, or a business brand. It could be a media personality, or somebody you really co-sign and want to see win. And you think they're maybe just, one or, two relationships away from, having their breakthrough.
Ooh, that is a really tough question.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know you got the whole city probably tuned in. They want to know.
oh, I have to single out. Oh my gosh. That is when I tell you that is so hard because there are so many talented people here in Dallas. And I think that everybody's talented in their own right. So it's like I
Right.
rock with I have relationships and I think that we have some like the best makeup artists, for instance, but they're all really great at their own thing.
Right.
Ooh, KG, you can't do me like this.
Well, look. Well, look. I'll say this in your defense. Like you co-sign people all the time. You co-sign them daily through your platforms, through the music you listen to. But let's say this one is, maybe somebody that doesn't have like the push as some of those. Like some of those makeup artists already have huge followings. So maybe it's somebody that you just want to shine light on that people
Mm,
may not look at every
mm,
day.
mm. Ooh, that is so. I'm gonna tell you, I'm serious. Like I'm trying to think. Lord, I told you I just got out of a therapy session. My brain can't take this, Katie. I'm about to break down. I was just joking. I'm gonna tell you why it's hard because I always work with new artists, and not just makeup artists. Like I work with
Yeah.
new photographers that have 800 followers. I work with there are two stylists right now that I'm working with that nobody even knows their name hardly. As a matter of fact, one's name is Haley and one's name is Kristen. They probably have less than both of them, like, they may have a little bit over 1,000 followers. But I love working with new people because to me, new people are hungry and I
Right.
feel great. And it's not even like I'm not looking for necessarily free because I'll pay them. You know what I'm saying? But they're not necessarily caught up in what they've always done. They're willing to try new things. They're super
Gotcha.
hungry. They're super when I post them and they get work and clients from it, they're so happy. You know what I'm saying? Even when I did my
Right.
wedding at the time, I worked with an all black company that did like the videography and the photography and the DJ and the lighting. It was a one-stop shop. It was Harmland Visions. At the time, they were
Okay.
brand new when I had gotten married, and I wanted to give. That's my wedding now. I ain't gonna play when it comes to my wedding. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
but for
yeah.
some reason, I'm like, dang, I really feel like I'm supposed to give them this shot, and they did an amazing job. And I'm not going to say that catapulted their career by any means, but I think that it definitely helped because that was kind of like a cosign. So it's really hard for me to put my finger on one thing, but I will say this. If there are new people listening to your podcast, whether it's makeup artists, stylists, photographers, even restaurant owners, um, uh, I'm trying to think, just entrepreneurs, period. You know what I'm saying? People with fresh ideas. I'm not talking about somebody trying to make like a quick buck and throwing their name on a t-shirt because
Right.
unfortunately we get a lot of that but people that are really taking the time to build their brand and are sincere about it, I would like for them to hit me up, you know what I'm saying, and see if there's anything that I can
Okay.
do to kind of to help them. Look, you're right, I do have a pretty nice size following where all I have to do sometimes is post things and people are like, oh, okay. I could tell you one that I really think is dope. The amazing paint party. This is just so random. Um, a guy and his fiance, this guy named Ray Tennyson, and I've never met him personally. And I've seen him and his fiance on Instagram, and I followed this company. It's called Amazing Paint Party. It's like the sipping paint party, but it's with the Beyonce. You get
Okay.
to do Beyonces and the Bob Marleys and the Drake's, Kobe's, Barack and Michelle Obama. Like it's us, Selena. You get what I'm saying? Like, and they
Oh
have the
no.
black and white versions and they have the color versions, and they literally will send them to your house, and they're so fun and easy to do. And I just think we talk about a black-owned business that's out of the box, right?
Right.
And just that artsy side. And I remember I've been watching his story on Instagram, and he was diagnosed with cancer. And I just recently today saw that, he'd been going to his treatment. So far, the doctors haven't found anything, any more leukemia in his blood. So just definitely, again, I've never met him and his fiance in my life. But I think what they're doing, they've created something that's so easy to follow along, exposing our kids and ourselves to art. And it's just creative. It was just different. And and then again, he did it, and it's surrounded around our culture. You know what I'm saying? The Hispanic and Black community, people that we look up to and that we want to paint. No offense against painting flowers and boats and all that kind of stuff, because that's fun too, right? But this was just so dope. So I would say I'm a co-sign the amazing paint party, Ray Tennyson and his fiance.
And there you have it, episode 1 of the COSIGN Conversations podcast featuring Lady Jade, speaker and co-host of the syndicated morning radio show, Dee in the Morning. Please make sure that you visit Dallas Counts 2020 on Instagram. This episode was brought to you by the Dallas Census 2020. And if you haven't already, please fill out the census at my2020census.gov. And always, thank you guys for living the COSIGN life. Stay tuned.